Daniel Hartley had spent years behind polished boardroom tables, analyzing profit charts and hearing executives boast about efficiency. Yet something had begun to gnaw at him, the sense that those numbers were only half the story. The company's frontline workers, the real gears turning the business, were little more than statistics in quarterly reports. That's why, one quiet Monday morning, Daniel made a choice few in his position would dare. He disguised himself as a new trainee and walked into one of the busiest branches of his retail empire. Gone was his tailored suit and gold watch. In their place, a plain polo shirt, cheap slacks, and a name tag that simply read Dan. From the start, he noticed small things the spreadsheets never captured: the exhaustion in employees' eyes, the way they stretched their shifts, the forced smiles when customers grew impatient. Yet among them all, one cashier stood out. Lena. She couldn't have been older than 30, with tired eyes that seemed permanently shadowed by worry. But whenever a customer approached, her expression transformed into warmth and light. She joked with children, helped elderly shoppers pack their bags, and even slipped a few cents from her pocket when someone fell short at checkout. During a brief break, Daniel saw her head outside instead of joining the other employees in the staff lounge. Something tugged at him, so he followed at a distance, careful not to intrude. Behind the store, on a weathered wooden bench, sat a little girl clutching a worn school bag, Lena's daughter. The girl's face brightened the moment her mother appeared. Lena pulled out a paper bag from her apron pocket and unwrapped a sandwich. But what Daniel witnessed next stopped him cold. Without taking a bite for herself, Lena placed the sandwich in her daughter's hands, watching tenderly as the little girl devoured it. Lena then sipped only from a bottle of water, pretending she wasn't hungry. The sight hit Daniel harder than any financial downturn he'd ever faced. Here was an employee who gave her all to customers, yet couldn't even afford lunch for herself. He noticed her embarrassment when she caught him glancing over, and quickly she whispered, "As long as she eats, I'm fine." Then, without complaint, Lena stood, brushed crumbs off her daughter's lap, and prepared to return to her register as though nothing unusual had happened. The following morning, Daniel walked into headquarters dressed once again as the powerful man everyone knew, the impeccably dressed CFO with a commanding presence. But inside, he felt different. The image of Lena quietly sacrificing her own meal haunted him through the night. For the first time in years, Daniel wasn't thinking about profits or market share, he was thinking about people. When the executive meeting began, the room buzzed with the usual chatter about numbers, projections, and cost-cutting strategies. But Daniel stood at the head of the table, his voice sharper than usual. "Before we dive into the reports," he said, "I want to show you something." The lights dimmed, and the projector flickered on. A still frame appeared, security footage from the bench behind the store. It showed Lena handing her only sandwich to her daughter, her own stomach ignored. A stunned silence swept the room. Some executives shifted uncomfortably in their leather chairs, others frowned, clearly unprepared for this. Daniel let the silence sit before speaking again. "We boast about being a family brand, yet our employees are living like this. Is this what we stand for? Is this what we call success?" His words were steady, but there was a weight behind them that no one could dismiss. He revealed his undercover visit, describing what he'd seen: Lena's kindness to customers, her dignity in hardship, her love for her daughter. Then he laid out sweeping changes: higher base wages for all store employees, free daily meal programs for workers and their children, and the creation of an emergency assistance fund for families in crisis. His tone left no room for debate. By the end, the executives, who had never seen him this passionate, voted unanimously in favor. Days later, Lena was called into the manager's office. Her heart pounded, fearing she had done something wrong. Instead, she found Daniel waiting, no longer the trainee she remembered, but the CFO himself. Her jaw dropped in shock. With a gentle smile, he handed her an envelope. Inside was not only her official promotion to assistant manager, but also a scholarship for her daughter's education, paid in full by the company. Tears welled in Lena's eyes as her little girl clung to her side, beaming with joy. For the first time in years, Lena felt hope rising in her chest. And word of Daniel's actions spread like wildfire through the company, inspiring employees everywhere. The undercover CFO had done more than witness a sacrifice, he had transformed it into a movement that changed lives. Vo fis vis esse stoala naprezena tisina, narusima tolko tihim sopanim navorazdenij, sotrudniki paragladivalis, mnogi vitirali glaza, ne vira, cito stuli sviditelami takogo momenta, kato to ostorsno snimel vis na telefon, drugi, molka sobirali razbrozani vesi, starosvernut rabasimu mestu hot kakaj toporodok, no dila alini vase mir rastworlsa, ona derzala dok u grudi, osasala e krohotno teplo I zappa, iv grudi rozdalos novo, ni s gem ne shravnamo kubstivo, artem siddle radum, venimatelno nabluda za nimi, on vigladal odnavrameno rastaranum I scasilavum, cogda to on bile samum bliscum selivecum dila alini, no godi, cito e razdalali, ostavili gluboki raini, ona ne nala, cito kubstiviovit, blagadarnost za spacini ili bol ot vospomenanij o preditelspe, tai nala, cito ado mozit slusitsa tok vinezapno, tihosprosalon, ostorsno popravla odialo vokra gemeladenka, alina gorko uzmenulas, baramenist redko sprasaveit, cogda udobni, a damala, uspu doit v rodum, e visgladi vistratilis, iv atum visglade melknula visa e obs istoria, labov, scandali, nokni razgovori, sleazy I ta tisina, cito odnazdi stala poslednej tokaj v break. Tai odna rastila e, golos artemadronial, alina na sekundu zamalas, ona bolas priznatsa, kak tazalo bilo vis ado verma, kak casto edge hotelos operetsa na pleko, kodorogo radum ne okazalos, no gordost I privica bite silnoj zastavili ili kivnut, da, a spravlalas sama, artem otvil visglad, slovno udar bile sliskum silnim, on ne zanal, cito skazit. No v ego srdci uz zarazdalos zeleni vis ispravit, on ne mog odvesti glaz od malenkogo kamaka skasta, kodarij spal, utnovsis v grud alini, collegi ostorsno priblizalis, kato to predlozal visvot skoru sa raz, kato to prines odila, postapeno sum I sueda vernulis v office, no dila troa, materi, otka I navorazdenij, vase mir bud to ostanavilsa, alina zakrila glaza, ukasiva dok, I podamala, Mozit Leon snova stat castu ne se zizni, ili ado visego li slukana vistreka, otveta poka ne bilo, no ona nala odno, cheaper oni svazani navsegda, I, vosmosno, ameno atot den stanet tokaj, s kodaraj naknetsa nova glava v sudbi. Morning broke with a pale golden light, the storm finally spent. Mist curled along the valley, and the river, though calmer, still carried the scars of its rage. Zara stepped outside Armin's hut, her shoes ruined, her clothes still damp but wearable. The air smelled of wet earth and smoke, so different from the perfume-soaked boardrooms and glass towers she was used to. Armin stood nearby, chopping wood with careful strikes. His posture was strong, determined, yet humble. Zara watched him silently, a lump forming in her throat. He had no idea who she truly was, no idea that the woman he had saved could change his life with a single word. A distant rumble interrupted her thoughts. It wasn't thunder this time. A convoy of black SUVs snaked along the muddy road toward the village, their polished frames shining even under the weak sun. Armin frowned, shielding his eyes. Who would come here with cars like that? Zara's heart sank. She had hoped for more time, but reality had caught up. The cars halted, and within moments, men in suits poured out. Some rushed straight toward her, calling, "Ms. Qureshi. Thank God you're safe." Armin's axe froze midair. He turned to her slowly, his expression caught between disbelief and confusion. "Ms. Qureshi." Zara sighed, guilt prickling her chest. She had wanted to remain just Zara for a little longer. "Armin, my full name is Zara Qureshi." She held his gaze, her voice gentle. "I run Qureshi Enterprises. I'm not just a traveler. I came here to inspect land near the valley. I never expected." She gestured toward the river, her voice trembling. "This." The suits fussed around her, draping a coat over her shoulders, offering bottled water, checking her pulse as though she were fragile glass. But Zara's eyes stayed fixed on Armin. He stood stiffly, wiping sweat from his brow, trying to process what he had just heard. The billionaire Zara Qureshi, the woman whose name had reached even his small village through newspapers, though only as whispers of unimaginable wealth. And she was standing here, having slept in his humble hut. Finally, he spoke, his tone quiet but steady. "It doesn't matter who you are. When you were drowning, you were just a person who needed saving. Those words, so simple yet so profound, pierced deeper than any lavish praise she had ever received. For the first time in years, Zara felt seen not for her empire, but for her humanity. And she knew, this boy, this poor villager with nothing to his name, had given her something no fortune ever could, a truth she could never buy.